yeah. Great, so thank you. Welcome everyone to this ETS workshop. Our topic today is Sim Facilitation Masterclass number 2, Advanced Hands-on Training. Next, thank you. And today presenting some members of the ETS team. Myself, Eduardo Rebagliati, I'm the Learning Technology Specialist at ETS, and joining me are my two colleagues, Gabrielle and Marika. You want to say hi?
Hi, I'm Gabrielle Coombs. I am a learning designer at ETS, and Marika.
Yeah, I'm Marika, and I'm the educational technologist with ETS.
Thank you. Okay, so we would love to start with a land acknowledgement. So we acknowledge that UBC Vancouver is situated on the traditional unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And it would be lovely to know what land you're on. So if you can share that information in the chat, you can do that now. You can also visit the website native-land.ca if you want to learn more about First Nations and Indigenous territories where we live. Okay, so the agenda for today, we're going to start with a couple of frequent asked questions related to tips and tricks to master Zoom. So we're going to be presenting a couple of questions. I think we have like 9 of them or 10. And each one of us, the 3 presenters here, are going to be showing you how you can learn these master tricks. So you can use them in your classes or in your meetings and such. Then we're going to have a little exercise, a hands-on exercise. We're going to be exploring how you can create your own meetings. So we're going to present a couple of scenarios and just to get the creative flow in us and get a couple of ideas of what things we might be able to do with the tips and tricks that we just learned in this session. And then we're going to finish with questions and feedback, of course. Good. So now we're going to start with the questions, and Gabby's going to do the first one. So Gabby, take it.
Okay, so this is one that we get asked quite a lot, and it's how to show your Zoom controls when you're doing screen share. So this is a really nice function, and I would imagine, especially if you're teaching and you want students to be able to use Zoom functionally, this would be a really useful thing to get used to doing. So there's a couple of steps you have to follow. So you need to go into your, there are 2 places you have to change the settings, unfortunately, in your global settings, which is on the Zoom website, zoom.us, and then also in the desktop client. So I will quickly demonstrate how I would do that. So on my Zoom account, I will go into my settings. So I'm on the Zoom website. This is my profile. And then on the side, I'll go into settings. And Zoom settings are really extensive. There's a lot here. So one thing that I often do, they have like a search, which is really useful, or you can use like Control or Command F to find what you're looking for. But because I am looking for Zoom controls, let's see if it'll show up. Click. Will it come up or will it be slow? Maybe not. Okay, otherwise it is in the advanced settings. So if you're going into, so as I was saying, if you are in your settings, you want to have a look for what I would probably call looking at the Zoom controls. So this is the option. It says show Zoom windows during screen share. So this means that if you have this selected, it will allow you to show all of your Zoom controls. So your toolbar, all of those things. So you need to have that turned on. Once you've turned that on, you should reset your desktop client. And then once you do that, you can change this setting in the video settings, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment once I have turned it on myself. So I am going to do a desktop share. And can everyone see Zoom?
Yeah.
Great. So this is one of the nice functions of this particular setting. You can show everyone all of the Zoom controls. So if you, for example, are in a class and you need students to be able to share their screen, this is a nice way to visually demonstrate it. And it can be turned on while you're in a meeting by clicking on this upwards button on the video and going into video settings. And then from there, you'll probably need to go to share screen. And you'll see that you have this option here, a checkbox, show my Zoom window to other participants when I am screen sharing. So this is really easy to turn on and off. If I turn it off and then screen share again, my Zoom controls won't be visible anymore. But again, just a really nice way if you're trying to highlight Zoom functionality to people. This is an easy way to do it. Okay. So next slide. I'm going to pass over to Marika.
Okay, so the next question is, can one Zoom account host multiple Zoom meetings at the same time? So actually so this might be useful when you're maybe the admin, where you need to manage 2 meetings at the same time, or maybe monitor the meetings. So for our UBC account, which is a licensed education account, we can actually host up to 2 meetings at the same time. So both meetings need to be started by the original meeting host, and the host can actually leave the meeting and pass it to co-host during the meeting if needed. And so, but then even though you are able to have 2 meetings active at the same time, but by default, you actually are not able to join multiple meetings at the same time. So in order to do that, next slide, please, Gabrielle. So on your Zoom web portal, you will need to go into settings, and then on the meeting tab, you will go to the basic tab. There you will find join different meetings simultaneously on desktop, where you need to enable this so that you can actually join 2 meetings at the same time. So if you have that enabled, you are still not able to host 2 meetings at the same time. Yep. So next question is for Eduardo.
Thank you. Okay, so what options do we have for recording a meeting? Can we see the text there? Okay. So usually we can record meetings in 2 ways. We can make a local recording, which means we record the meeting to our computers, or we can do a cloud recording. Now the local recording is a little bit limited, or it's just like the basic thing, meaning that you can see, for example, if we were recording this one to a computer, then we will see only the presentation and the presenter who is speaking. And that's it. But then when we talk about cloud recording, we have so many more options. This is actually something new in Zoom. They have presented more different inputs that you can record. So I'm going to share my screen for a second to show you those.
We just go for it, Eduardo. I don't think I need to stop. Oh, I will.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so also to enable this like multiple recordings, you will have to go to the Zoom page to your user, and then go to settings, as we have seen in the other cases. And in settings, instead of being here in meeting, where we saw all the things we've done so far, you would go to recording. So in recording, you can go to cloud recording, because this is the one I'm mentioning that has like a lot of options. And by default, you'll find only a couple of them that have the check. So I think it's only like the active speaker with share screen. And I think that's it, you know, like the standard recording, like the standard Zoom recording. But we have so many more options here. We can actually choose to record separately the active speaker, the gallery view, the shared screen. So you can get all of these as independent files. And the nice thing of this is that then you can edit those and with more control. Likewise, you can also record all the audio inputs separately. And that also gives you a lot of possibilities for post-production. So to be more clear about this, let's see an example. So this morning we were actually doing a test, and we recording the three of us met, and we enabled all of these functions and did a recording. So as you can see, then when we go to the recording, and by the way, the place where you find this is you go to recordings, and you'll see all your cloud recordings, also the local recordings. And this one here, you can see we have 10 files, quite a bit. And these are the files that we get. So as you can see, all the different audio files for each speaker, and also all the different video inputs. So let's look at those video inputs quickly so you get an idea. So these are some of them. Let's see. This one was, so this is like the standard one, just the presenter and the shared screen.
That's cool.
Oh no, this is like switching between who's speaking. Then this one is just the shared screen. And yeah, like after, and the audio, of course. So this can be very helpful if you want to do some post-production and have control. Then we also get the, let's see, this one. I think this is presenter view. So whoever is speaking goes into that.
My extra slides that I'm going to copy
And I think this one is the gallery. So see.
the slide.
No, I think this is the presenters, yeah. And probably this last one is the gallery. Let's see. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you want to have access to all these files, just make sure you enable those. And just one little trick, because something that happened to me earlier was that make sure when you go to settings, and when you then go to recording, and you enable all of these, then at the bottom you have to click save. Okay, so make sure you do that always. Okay.
Okay, so on the topic of recording, a lot of the time we have questions about if you're co-hosting or if you're not the person who made the the Zoom meeting, where will the recording go? So irrespective of who is making the recording, you might have multiple co-hosts. The cloud recording will always go to the account which created the meeting. So in this case, for Eduardo, he was the one who recorded those, that meeting, and it was his account, so it went to his account. If I had been the one recording, they still would have gone to Eduardo's account because it was his meeting. In this case, because we're all co-hosts, it doesn't matter who is the main host or the co-host, the recording will always go to the same account, the one that set the meeting up in the first place.
Okay, so for waiting room, so waiting room is very helpful if you are setting up a meeting and you need to do some preparation work prior to any participants joining the meeting. So like this, actually this workshop, we do have a waiting room. So that's why you actually see a screen before you are admitted to this workshop. The next slide, I will show you how to enable the waiting room. when you're scheduling a meeting. So on your Zoom desktop client, you can just click on the schedule button, and then on the list, you can click on the waiting room. So it will enable the waiting room function. So it will keep the participants in the waiting room. And then, so while you are actually on a meeting, you can also click on the participants button at the bottom of the control. So there you will be able to see a list of participants, and then on the right hand side corner, there will be a more button where you can actually click to enable the waiting room. So once the waiting room is enabled, you can actually, as a meeting host, you can click on, so when there are participants joining the meeting, you will be able to see the participant joining message on your screen, and then you can just admit them individually, or when you are seeing a bunch of participants joining together, then you can actually click on the Manage Participants button, and then you will actually see the list of guests that are joining, and you can admit them all at once by clicking the Admit All button. And then when when they are in the meeting room, so when you're actually in the meeting, you can actually put participants back to the waiting room in any circumstance that you need that function. And so you can just click on the guest, and then there's the More button, and where you can select Put in Waiting Room to put them back. And then, so maybe when you are still preparing for your meeting and people are waiting at the waiting room, you can actually send them a message. So next slide, please. Yeah, so by clicking on your chat button, when you are selecting, so it's a bit small on the screen, but you can select everyone, and it should be stating in the waiting room. So you select that option, and then you can just type your message and then click send, and then it will be sent to all the participants within the waiting room with your message.
Okay, so next question. I only have one screen. How can I share my screen but keep my notes visible? So many times when we are doing a Zoom presentation, we might have two screens, and that kind of works well because you can share one screen, and in the other screen, you can have your notes or any other documents. But how do we do this if we only have one screen and we still want to have that ability to see our notes? So something that we can do, and this is a very cool feature in Zoom, is to share a portion of the screen. So I'm going to show how that happens. First of all, for example, here I only have one screen. So if I was able to share my screen as we normally do, let's say go like for a whole screen share, you would see, do you see my screen?
Yep.
It's perfect. And you see the whole screen. So let's imagine that I had a presentation, or I was showing someone this website, but here I have my notes. So how do I do if I just want to share like this part and not like the rest? We can share a portion of the screen. So do you see my Zoom controls as well?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Because I just want to show you that if you want to go there, you will go to share screen, and then instead of being in basic, we will move to advanced. And here we have an option called portion of screen. So I'm going to go into that now. And what this does is like, now I'm seeing my screen, like obviously because I'm in front of it, but I also see like a little green square, and I can change the size and the dimension of that square to select what portion of the screen is being shared. So right now I'm just limiting that to the Chrome window. Let's say if I wanted to expand it, I guess now you can see the other portion, right? Do you see that? Do you see the notes and all of that? Yeah. So the idea here is that you just like limit that to whatever you want to share. And next I have my notes, and so I can present, and I can also have my notes, but no one else will see them.
Okay, this is a pretty simple one. How do I share audio and video? So again, this is done when you're doing share screen. Something that I think sometimes can be missed easily because it is not very obvious. So it's at the bottom of your share screen pop-up box, and I'm going to show my video, my Zoom controls in a moment to demonstrate, but you have a share audio option. One thing to keep in mind is that it's going to share the audio from your entire computer. So say, for example, if you have any other audio in the background, and this happens to me a lot, like email notifications, the sound that Outlook makes when it pings when I get a new email, that is shared with everyone. Everyone will hear that. So that's just something to be mindful of, especially if you're using Zoom for recording a professional video. You might want to go through and mute other items that you have open on your computer so that the sound that you're sharing is only from the slides or only from the place that you want it to be shared from. So I'm going to do a new share. And can everyone see my desktop and my Zoom controls?
Yeah.
Yep. So what I'll do is I'll click on new share, and at the bottom you'll see I have share sound. There are some other options here. I can choose what kind of, whether it's mono or stereo. And then also if the whole point of sharing audio is because I'm playing a video, I also have this optimize for video clip option too. So again, if I'm streaming something, that might be something to consider. Okay, so I'm going to change my settings back for not sharing my Zoom controls. And let's go to the next question. So, Marika.
Okay, yep. So now it's we're moving on to the topics on breakout rooms. So breakout rooms are very helpful when you have some maybe discussion groups or maybe some assignments that you want your participants to be joining in groups. So on Zoom, there are a maximum of 50 breakout rooms that can be created within a meeting. And then so there are actually a couple ways to set up the breakout rooms. So first, you can actually schedule, when you're scheduling a meeting, you can actually create the rooms and also during a meeting. So now I will first show you how to create the rooms while you're scheduling a meeting. So let me share my screen. Yeah. Okay, so when you're on your Zoom web portal, first of all, you have to you have to find the settings, and then so you can click on the schedule here on the top right hand corner, and then when you're on your scheduling page, under the options, so you can click on show. So here you can actually select breakout room pre-assign. So you can either create the rooms here, so you can just click like how many rooms you want, and then you can actually name the rooms here, and then you add the participants with their email address that they use to associate with their Zoom account. And then so you can just assign the participants here. And then there's also another option, which is import from CSV, which is, so Zoom actually provides a template. So it is basically also type in the Zoom, the room name, as well as the participant's email address. And then you can just import there. And then, so while you have that done, and then, oh, and one thing is that you need to have the breakout rooms set up enabled on your account first. So make sure you actually do that. So under the settings in meeting advanced, you can actually enable this breakout room here. So make sure you enable this before you actually pre-assign participants onto the breakout rooms. Okay, so when you are on the meeting, you can also actually create the breakout rooms. So this one here under more, there is actually the breakout rooms if you have enabled it on your portal. So you just click on it, and then there are actually options where you can select the number of breakout rooms you want to create, and then you can assign participants either automatically by Zoom, or you can assign them manually, or let the participants to choose which room they want to join. And so after that, you just click create. Yeah, so in this menu here, you can just, like the portal version, you can just rename your room, and then you can assign the people. So you can select the people here, and then so you just basically have them set up here. And then so once you have the breakout rooms set up, there are actually more options that you can adjust on here. So you can see a few options, like you can actually move the assigned participants into breakout rooms, or you can have the participants return to the main sessions, which is the screen we are having now. So this is the main room that we have. And then you can also adjust the time that takes the breakout rooms to close, and then also the closing time for the breakout room. So you can adjust these times here. And so one tips is that, so once you have this setup, before you actually open up all your rooms here, you would want to make sure your instructions are actually typed into the chat box, because once you open the rooms, all the participants would be joining into the breakout rooms, and you probably want them to know the instructions before they actually are in the breakout rooms. And because once the participants are in the breakout rooms, they are still able to see the message on the chat right before they join the breakout rooms. Okay, and then so let's say I open all rooms here. Yeah, so actually, so now they have also a broadcast function that you can have. So you can broadcast the message. Oh, there's no broadcast audio. Yeah, so actually there should be two things that you can broadcast. So one is the broadcast message, and the other one is broadcast audio. So for broadcast message, it will just be a line on the screen on each of the participants' screen, but it won't last long. It may be less than a minute. And so for the instructions, it's still better for you to input them on the main chat box before they are headed to the breakout rooms. And there's also actually a function where you can broadcast voice, but this function is only enabled if everyone, including the participants and the host, that they have the newest version of Zoom. So if anyone within the Zoom meeting doesn't have the newest Zoom, then this function won't be available to this meeting. So yeah, so and then so once you have the rooms open, so when it's time up for the breakout rooms, you just need to click close all rooms here to get everyone back. So it depends on, so the time for the participants to return back to the main session is based on the time that you set on the previous setting there. So so for this session, we're having 60 seconds, but you can adjust that time. And so close our rooms here. So yeah, that's basically the how you would manage breakout rooms on Zoom.
Okay, cool. So we also have, I'll start sharing my screen, Marika. This is something that we're excited to talk about, Eduardo, the new whiteboard.
Yeah, thank you. So a couple of months ago, Zoom released this new feature, which is called the Zoom whiteboard. I think we already had one in the past, but this is like a new version that has so many more features. So let's look at that. As you will see in the toolbar, now we have a button which says whiteboards. So if I was going to go here And I'm going to create one right now so we can start playing with it. But it's really a very, it allows collaboration between everyone who's in the meeting. So let's go and do that. So we have the whiteboard, and now anyone can go into that and start creating content. So you'll see that you have a toolbar on the left, and you can choose any of those different tools, like the pen or like the text or the shape, and we can start creating things. So this can be very useful if you're having a meeting, if you want to brainstorm or just create content or share ideas with a group of people. So let's just quickly, go around. Go ahead, write something or draw something. I'm going to do something. There we go. The smiley face. Oh, nice. A heart shape. Lovely. And now the nice thing of this is kind of like a Google Doc, because this whiteboard is also going to be saved on the internet, on the cloud. And that way, after the meeting, people can go back to the whiteboard and still create content or edit content or continue to work on something. So a cool way we can do this, we will have to share it. So I don't know if you all, do you also see the share button, or is that only for me? Yeah, perfect. So I'm going to go to share. And when I go to the share window, I have a link. So I'm going to copy that link right now, and I'm going to share it in the chat with you, so you can access the whiteboard in the browser. And I'm going to share my screen as well to show you what things we can do there. So I'm going to go to the chat. Here's the link. Click that. And I'm going to share my screen now so I can discuss the other things that we have. Because one of the good things of this version, the browser version, is that we have a couple of more tools. So let's look at those. Perfect. So here we are now in the browser version. And as you can see on the left, we have the toolbar. And for example, we have a couple of more things. We can add an image. So I'm going to quickly select the picture. Yeah, I think it's really fine. So we can have pictures, for example. This is something that is text setup that we did a couple of days ago. So I don't know, maybe we could be having a meeting and discussing this setup, and then we can have the pictures and some sticky notes on the left and elaborate on new ideas.
Yeah, this is a really great alternative to Google Docs. I know that I love Google Docs. I think everyone in this team like really appreciates Google Docs, but obviously like at UBC, Google products aren't officially haven't been officially sanctioned. They're not something that we tend to recommend to people, just because we haven't undergone the same sort of privacy impact assessments with Google products as we have with the other UBC supported tools. But because Zoom is supported by UBC, because we have the server here located here in Canada, for our Zoom client, it's a really good alternative, and it works exactly the same way. It's really easy to send people the link and to get people editing as quickly as possible. And I think the drawing functions are really nice, right? I mean, Eduardo, you've shown some really good ones.
Yeah, and then also something that you can do once you're finished with the whiteboard, you can also export it as a PDF or as a PNG, which means an image file. So that's a nice feature as well. And you can also create multiple pages inside of the whiteboard. So I don't remember where that was in the browser version. Do you remember?
I think it's bottom in that like left-hand toolbar. I think it's at the very bottom.
Oh, this one, yeah. So we can create like another page, and here we can put new ideas and create new things. And then you can switch between pages. Yeah, that's the whiteboard. Anything I'm missing, Gabby, or anything?
No, I think that's pretty much it. So it's sort of kind of like a mashup between Google Docs and Google Jamboard, which is really, really similar to this. This actually has slightly better functionality than Jamboard, which is cool. And that some of the tools that are sort of part of it, like when Eduardo was adding the image, that's something that's like really easy to do. You can make mind maps and everything. It's really, really cool.
Mhm.
Okay, so finally, we have one more question. And that is about remote control, which is a fun thing that I think you can do on Zoom that often we forget about. So this is really, really useful, especially if you're working as an administrator or somebody who is helping someone else use Zoom. There is a function called remote access. So it can be enabled in the global settings on the Zoom website. And then you can turn it on or off during a meeting using the remote access button in the toolbar. So if I exit this here and I just go into my Zoom settings, I'm going to be looking for control again. Remote control. So this is in meeting basic, and you'll see this option here, remote control. So during screen sharing, the person who is sharing can allow other people to control the content, and you would have to have that turned on. You can also allow people to, share clipboard information if you'd like, but yes, the remote control function is super useful. So I'm going to do the same thing again where I show you my Zoom controls and show you what it looks like to turn it on. Okay.
Oh, I think we don't see your controls yet.
Yes, can we see them now?
Yeah, we see them.
Great. Okay, so for me, it'll be here in more. Is it here? No, remote control. I guess because I'm the one sharing my screen. But usually what you'll have if someone's sharing the screen is you'll have a button at the bottom that says remote. The other thing too is that if you're looking at someone's screen, there should be at the very top, you'll get like a little bar that looks similar to this with the screen sharing. And there should be an option for remote control. I think here, if I click on more, I have this remote control option and I can actually give other people control. So what I'll do is I'll give Eduardo control, mouse and keyboard access. Zoom's not happy about it. I'm going to allow it. But yes, hopefully Eduardo should be able to control my screen.
Yeah, and also, by the way, I could also ask for that control. So from my end, I could also go to options and request remote control from Gabby. So it can be done from both ends. In this case, Gabby gave it to me, but I can also ask for it. So, okay, once I'm in, I should be able to move things.
I think you should be able to now. So let's go to this page.
Okay.
So can you see?
Yeah, so for example, I'm disenabling things here, clicking here. And this one, can I also navigate in website?
Yeah,
perfect. So let's say something needs help, like they're having trouble finding whatever you were explaining them, and you can go in and help them with that. You can be the one controlling the computer, basically.
And then on my end, when I have decided that I don't want somebody to control anymore, I'll click on this more option again, click on remote controlled, and then stop it. So again, this is really, really useful if you are trying to find people, if you're trying to help people who are really struggling with Zoom functionality, or even not necessarily Zoom functionality, anything. Maybe there's a form they're trying to fill out and they might need some assistance getting through that. So again, lots of different ways that you could potentially use this function. Really, really useful. So I think because of